He's stealing that car! Security! The shout cut through the elegant murmur of the Tech Innovation Expo parking lot. 3 white security guards sprinted across the asphalt, surrounding Dominic Carter as he stood beside the most innovative vehicle in the VIP section. Dominic's fingers froze on the specialized key fob, its blue light pulsing with his suddenly racing heart. The world narrowed to the cold metal of handcuffs being yanked from a guard's belt and the dozens of eyes now fixed on him, judging, condemning, recording with raised phones. "On your knees, now!" The lid guard barked, hand hovering over his taser. "There's been a mistake," Dominic said, his voice steady despite the humiliation burning through him. "This is my vehicle. I designed it. I built it." The laughter that followed was worse than the accusation. Sharp, dismissive, rippling through the growing crowd of convention-goers in designer clothes. The California sun felt scalding against his skin, exposing him from all angles. "Yeah, and I'm Elon Musk," sneered the second guard, roughly grabbing Dominic's arm. The stench of the man's cheap aftershave invaded Dominic's nostrils as he was shoved against the very car he had spent 3 sleepless years perfecting. At 34, with 14 patents to his name, Dominic had grown accustomed to being underestimated. But this, being physically restrained in front of the very investors he'd come to meet, was a new kind of erasure that made his blood boil beneath his carefully composed exterior. Alexander Pierce, the executive director of the convention, pushed through the spectators, his expensive suit parting the crowd like water. His eyes swept over Dominic with casual dismissal. "What seems to be the problem here?" Pierce asked the guards, not Dominic. "Caught this one trying to break into the prototype vehicle, sir," the lead guard reported. "Claims he built it." Pierce's laugh was soft but devastating. "I know every creator, engineer, and CEO at this convention, and I assure you—" He finally looked at Dominic, his gaze lingering insultingly on his face rather than meeting his eyes. "You're not one of them." "My name is Dominic Carter, CEO of Carter Innovations," Dominic stated, each word precise despite the pressure on his shoulder. "I submitted my application 3 months ago and received confirmation. My ID and credentials are in my inside pocket." "Convenient," Pierce said with a smirk. "Anyone can print business cards. I personally review all breakthrough technology submissions." He gestured dismissively at the sleek vehicle. "This uses polymer-based energy storage that's still theoretical at best. No garage tinkerer could possibly—" "It's a polymer-based conductivity matrix," Dominic corrected, unable to let the technical error stand. "Not standard energy storage. The difference is fundamental." A flicker of uncertainty crossed Pierce's face before hardening into something uglier. "That's what I meant, obviously." He turned to the guards. "Take him to security. We'll sort this out away from our guests." As the lead guard yanked Dominic forward, a silver device tumbled from his pocket. Small, intricate, with glowing blue inlays that caught the sunlight in hypnotic patterns. It clattered to the ground. Pierce snatched it up, turning it over in his manicured hands. "What's this? Some kind of hacking device? Were you planning to steal proprietary technology along with the car?" Every instinct told Dominic to shout, to defend himself with the rage boiling inside. Instead, he straightened his shoulders and met Pierce's gaze with quiet intensity that made the older man take an involuntary step back. "That," Dominic said, his voice carrying clearly to every recording phone, "is the key to understanding everything you think you know about energy storage." His lips curved into the slightest smile. "And you're holding it upside down." 3 weeks earlier, Dominic hunched over his workbench in a converted warehouse on the outskirts of Oakland. The space smelled of solder and hot electronics, the comforting scent of creation that had become more home than his tiny apartment. Dawn light filtered through grimy windows, casting long shadows across prototype components. He hadn't slept. Again. His phone buzzed with a payment reminder, the 3rd this month. Dominic ignored it, focusing on the delicate circuit before him. His fingers, steady despite the exhaustion, manipulated components invisible to the untrained eye. This was the 73rd iteration of the control module. The previous 72 had failed in testing. "You can't afford number 74, he muttered to himself. The final mortgage notice for the workshop lay unopened on his desk, its red lettering visible through the thin envelope. 30 days until they took everything. His phone rang. His grandmother. The only call he would always answer. "Morning, Grams," he said, trying to inject energy into his voice. "Don't you morning me, Dominic James Carter. I know that voice. You haven't slept." Eloise Carter's voice carried the weight of her 83 years, but lost none of its authority. Dominic glanced at the photo taped beside his workstation, a younger Eloise standing proudly beside Harold Carter in front of the mechanic shop they'd built from nothing in 1960s Detroit. The business that had put Dominic through MIT before a neighborhood revitalization project seized it through eminent domain. "How's the treatment going?" Dominic asked, changing the subject. Eloise's soft cough spoke volumes. "Same as always. Expensive." The weight of responsibility pressed down on Dominic's shoulders. His grandmother's medical bills had depleted her savings 2 years ago. His innovations should have made millions by now. "The investors will come through this time," he said, more to himself than to her. "The convention is in 3 weeks. "And if they don't?" Eloise asked, gently. "Dominic, sometimes I wonder if you're fighting the wrong battle. Any major company would hire me to develop their ideas instead of mine, put me in a lab where they can take credit for my work." The bitterness in his voice surprised even him. "I'm sorry, Grams, I didn't mean to snap." "You get that fire from me," she said, her tone softening. "Your grandfather used to say I was too stubborn to bend, even when the wind was strong enough to snap me in half." Did he regret it? Building something of his own instead of working for someone else? Not once, not even at the end. Her voice grew distant with memory. He used to say dignity isn't what others give you. It's what no one can take away. After the call, Dominic returned to the control module with renewed focus. He activated the testing sequence, holding his breath as it cycled up. The diagnostic panel flashed green across all parameters. For the first time in 73 attempts, success. Dominic's hands trembled as he integrated the module into his creation, a revolutionary energy storage system that made his prototype vehicle possible. His authentication system recorded every aspect of the startup sequence, the custom digital signature he'd built into every component, proof of creation that no one could dispute. His phone buzzed again. An email from the Tech Innovation Expo confirming his application was under review. The same response he'd gotten for 3 months. No booth assignment, no exhibitor credentials. Dominic scrolled through his dwindling bank account. The remaining funds wouldn't cover next month's rent for both the workshop and his apartment. A final notice from his grandmother's medical provider warned of service discontinuation. The ticking clock grew louder. Across town, in gleaming offices overlooking the bay, he'd sat through 14 venture capital meetings in the past year. Always the same responses. "Fascinating concept, but we're looking for founders with more institutional backing. Have you considered partnering with an established name in the industry?" Translation: "We don't fund people who look like you." Dominic carefully packed the authentication device, a sleek silver object with blue inlays that contained every patent, every test result, every proof of his innovation, his insurance policy against the theft of his ideas, 30 days until financial collapse, 3 weeks until the convention. His final shot. Dominic pulled the tarp off his creation, a vehicle that would redefine transportation if given the chance. He'd been denied a booth through official channels, but there were other ways to be seen. The VIP parking section, where investors would gather, wasn't just a location, it was an opportunity. His vehicle there would be impossible to ignore. All he needed was for someone important to really see it, to see him. The Tech Innovation Expo sprawled across the San Francisco Convention Center like a chrome and glass kingdom. Dominic navigated the crowded entrance hall, rejection email pulled up on his phone. The constant hum of networked devices mixed with forced laughter, the soundtrack of success that had always played just beyond his reach. "Excuse me, where can I find the refreshment stand?" A woman in designer glasses tapped his shoulder, not bothering to look at his face. "I don't work here," Dominic replied evenly. "Oh." Her surprise was barely concealed as she took in his tailored suit. "Sorry about that." It was the third such interaction in 20 minutes. Dominic had expected it, dressed for it, prepared for it. Still, each assumption scraped against his resolve like sandpaper. He checked his watch. 2 hours until his first potential investor meeting. Time to scope out the competition. The main exhibition hall gleamed with cutting-edge displays, each booth more elaborate than the last. Dominic paused at a display from Pierce Energetics, where Alexander Pierce himself held court among admiring attendees. The company's revolutionary battery technology rotated on a platform, technology that Dominic knew was already obsolete compared to his own. "It's all about institutional knowledge," Pierce was saying to a cluster of investors. "These garage inventors with their pipe dreams simply don't understand the complexity of bringing true innovation to market. It takes infrastructure, connections." Their eyes met briefly across the crowded space. Pierce's gaze slid over Dominic without recognition before continuing his pitch. "Our patented system represents a 15% improvement over current market leaders." Pierce gestured to the display. "That's the difference between amateur enthusiasm and professional engineering." The investors nodded, impressed by the man in the expensive suit with the established company. 15%. Dominic's system represented a 300% improvement, but without the booth, without the platform, without the right connections, it might as well not exist. A convention staff member approached, clipboard in hand. "Sir, do you have an exhibitor badge?" Dominic showed his general admission pass. "I'm just observing today." The exhibitor demonstrations are for potential investors and verified industry professionals. Her tone made it clear which category she believed Dominic fell into. "Do you have business credentials?" He produced his CEO card for Carter Innovations. The woman examined it as if checking for counterfeiting. "I don't see Carter Innovations on our exhibitor list." "We're not exhibiting officially. I'm here for meetings." As she walked away, Dominic overheard her speaking into her radio. "Security check on Section 5, non-exhibitor asking questions about the Pierce display." By noon, Dominic had been mistaken for staff 4 more times, had his credentials questioned twice, and watched as 3 potential investors who had agreed to meet suddenly found scheduling conflicts. The convention center's air conditioning felt insufficient against the heat of repeated rejection. He retreated to a quiet corner to regroup, checking his phone. A text from his grandmother's nurse. "Doctor wants to discuss new treatment option. Insurance denied. Needs decision by Friday." Friday. 3 days away. The treatment would cost more than Dominic had left. A notification from his banking app. Mortgage payment for the workshop automatically attempted. Insufficient funds. 27 days left before foreclosure. Dominic straightened his tie and headed for the exit. Time to implement Plan B. If they wouldn't let him inside officially, he'd make them come outside to him. In the parking lot, he removed the protective cover from his vehicle. Under the midday sun, its innovative design drew immediate attention. He activated several exterior features, subtle lighting, the almost silent hum of its revolutionary drive system. Within minutes, a small crowd had gathered. He was explaining the basics of the design when Pierce and 2 convention security staff approached rapidly. Pierce's face was flushed with anger. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" Pierce demanded. "This is private convention property." "I'm in the public parking area," Dominic replied calmly, "showing my vehicle to interested parties. You're soliciting our attendees outside sanctioned exhibition spaces." Pierce turned to the security guards. "This man has been flagged earlier today. He's attempting to circumvent proper channels." The crowd began to disperse under the security presence. Potential connections vanishing. "I applied through proper channels," Dominic said, producing his confirmation email. 3 months ago. Pierce barely glanced at the phone. Applications are subject to committee approval. Yours was evidently found wanting. On what grounds? Credibility, experience, verification of claims. Pierce smiled thinly. We can't have just anyone claiming revolutionary technology without proper vetting. Dominic gestured to his vehicle. The proof is right here. Test it yourself. That won't be necessary. Pierce nodded to the security guards. Please escort Mr. Carter off the premises. If he returns without proper credentials, he'll be trespassing. You can't do this, Dominic said, anger finally seeping into his voice. This is a public event. It's a private convention on private property. Pierce leaned closer, lowering his voice. And between us, Carter, people like you coming in with wild claims give legitimate innovators a bad name. There's a proper way to enter this industry, and this isn't it. People like you. The words hung in the air between them. As the guards escorted him toward the exit, Dominic noticed something wrong with his car. The protective covering for the authentication port had been pried open, the security seal broken. My car's been tampered with, he said, pulling away from the guards. Pierce blocked his path. Now you're making accusations? Perhaps it's time to involve the police. Dominic hesitated. A police report meant hours of delay, missed meetings, and likely nothing would come of it. More critically, it would mean public records that potential investors might find during due diligence. Fine, I'm leaving, Dominic said, returning to his vehicle. A quick check confirmed his fears. Someone had attempted to access his system. As he drove away, Pierce's voice carried across the parking lot. And don't bother coming back tomorrow. Your vehicle is not welcome on convention property. At a stoplight, Dominic checked his phone. All 3 investor meetings had canceled within the last hour. No explanations given. He punched the steering wheel, the pain in his knuckles a welcome distraction from the knot in his chest. Years of work, every resource exhausted, his grandmother's treatment hanging in the balance, all circling the drain because the system was designed to exclude people like him. No, he said aloud to the empty car. Not this time. He pulled over and made a call to the one person who might still be able to help, his former professor from MIT, Dr. Elaine Winters. Her voicemail picked up. Dr. Winters, it's Dominic Carter. I need advice. Pierce Energetics is blocking me from the expo, and I think they tried to access my prototype. I'm running out of options. Please call me back. Dominic drove aimlessly through San Francisco's evening traffic, the city's lights blurring through a haze of exhaustion. His phone lay silent on the passenger seat, no returned calls from Dr. Winters, no miracle solutions appearing. The taste of defeat was metallic in his mouth. He parked near a small cafe in the Mission District. Inside, the rich aroma of fresh coffee momentarily masked the scent of failure that seemed to cling to him. The usual, Dom? Asked Lucia, the owner who had watched Dominic come in late at night for years. As Lucia brought over his coffee, she studied his face. That bad, huh? Worse, Dominic admitted. They wouldn't even let me through the door. Their loss, though that doesn't help your bank account. Or my grandmother's treatment, he added quietly. Alone with his thoughts, Dominic pulled out his tablet and began reviewing the security logs from his vehicle. Someone had definitely attempted to access his control systems during the convention. He was so absorbed in the data that he almost missed the woman sliding into the booth across from him. Your authentication system has an elegance I've rarely seen in practical applications, she said without preamble. Dominic looked up, startled. The woman before him was in her early 60s, silver hair cut in a precise bob, eyes sharp behind titanium-framed glasses. She wore no makeup and no jewelry except a worn MIT class ring, identical to the one Dominic kept in his desk drawer. Dr. Winters, he said, surprise evident in his voice. You got my message. I did. Then I did some digging. Elaine Winters gestured to his tablet. Your prototype caused quite a stir in the parking lot today. Several of my colleagues texted me about it. Dominic's former professor had been his toughest critic and staunchest advocate during his years at MIT. Now she headed the Advanced Energy Research Institute, a position that carried enormous influence in the industry. "Pierce had me thrown out," Dominic said, the humiliation still fresh. "Claimed my application was rejected for credibility reasons." Dr. Winter's expression hardened. "Alexander Pierce is a mediocre engineer who inherited his father's company and connections. His revolutionary battery technology is just an incremental improvement on existing systems." Which is exactly why he felt threatened, Dominic realized. He saw my car and knew immediately that his technology is obsolete by comparison. "Show me," she said simply, nodding toward his tablet. Dominic hesitated. "Dr. Winters, with all due respect, I've been burned too many times. I can't risk—" "Dominic James Carter," she interrupted, leaning forward. "I failed you on your first quantum mechanics exam because you were too arrogant to check your work. I wrote your recommendation letter to the patent office when no one would take you seriously. I have never once asked you to trust me blindly." She pulled out her own tablet. "But I am asking now." Dominic transferred the technical specifications to Dr. Winter's device. He watched her face as she scrolled through the data, her expression shifting from professional interest to shock to something approaching wonder. "This shouldn't be possible," she murmured, eyes fixed on the energy density metrics. The polymer matrix configuration alone would revolutionize storage capacity, but combined with the conductivity enhancements. She looked up sharply. "You've tested this? Real-world applications, not just lab conditions?" "The car has over 6,000 miles on it," Dominic confirmed. "Zero degradation in the system. Charging time under 3 minutes with standard equipment." Dr. Winters set down the tablet carefully. "Dominic, do you understand what you've created? This isn't just a better battery, this changes everything. Transportation, grid storage, developing nations' energy access." "I know," he said quietly. "That's why I've been trying so hard to get funding. To protect the patents. To make sure it's done right." She studied him for a long moment. "And Pierce tried to access your systems today?" "Someone did. The attempt came from inside the convention center while I was being escorted out." Dr. Winter's mouth set in a thin line. "Alexander Pierce has a history of acquiring innovations through questionable means. 3 startups in the last 5 years have accused him of corporate espionage. None could prove it. All went bankrupt fighting him." "I can't fight him," Dominic said finally. "I'm 3 weeks from losing my workshop. My grandmother needs treatment I can't afford. And I've been blackballed from the only convention that matters this year." Dr. Winters tapped her fingers on the table, thinking. "What if you didn't have to fight him? What if you could make him defeat himself?" "What do you mean?" "Pierce's entire reputation is built on being the face of innovation, the visionary, the expert." A small, dangerous smile played at her lips. "What if we revealed him as a fraud in front of everyone who matters in the industry?" For the first time that day, Dominic felt a flicker of hope. "How?" "The convention continues for 2 more days. Tomorrow is the Advanced Energy Panel, the one you were supposed to be on." Dr. Winters pulled out her phone. "As the head of the Institute, I have certain privileges, including nominating last-minute replacements for the panel." "You want me on the panel?" "Pierce would never allow it." "Pierce doesn't control the panel selections. The committee does." Her smile widened. "A committee I've served on for 15 years. She made a quick call, speaking in clipped, authoritative tones about the necessity of having Carter Innovations represented due to groundbreaking developments relevant to the panel's focus. When she hung up, her eyes gleamed with satisfaction. "You're in. Panel starts at 11 a.m. tomorrow, main stage. Pierce will be there as the keynote speaker." She leaned forward. "But getting on stage is only half the battle. Pierce will try to discredit you. We need irrefutable proof of your innovation, something so compelling that even Pierce can't dismiss it." Dominic thought about his authentication device, the one thing that contained everything, that could verify his work beyond any doubt. the same device that had fallen from his pocket during the confrontation with Pierce. "I have exactly what we need," he said, "but there's a problem. Pierce might already have it." As Dominic detailed the confrontation in the parking lot, the doctor's expression grew increasingly concerned. "If Pierce has your authentication device, he could be trying to access your data as we speak." Dominic felt a cold knot form in his stomach. "Even if I make it onto that panel tomorrow, without the authentication device, it's my word against his. And in that room, his word carries more weight." Dr. Winters studied him thoughtfully. "Not necessarily. You built the authentication system yourself, correct? With your personal verification protocols?" Dominic nodded. "Then there must be a back door, a way to prove you're the creator even without the physical device." A slow smile spread across Dominic's face as realization dawned. "There is, but I'll need access to the convention center's main networking system to implement it." "Which is exactly what you'll have as a panelist, Dr. Winters said. "All presenters connect to the primary network for their demonstrations." For the first time in months, Dominic felt the pieces starting to align. A path forward, narrow and treacherous, but possible. Dominic spent the night in his workshop, sleep a distant luxury he couldn't afford. The overhead lights cast harsh shadows across the concrete floor as he meticulously prepared for the confrontation ahead. His grandmother's words echoed in his mind. "Dignity isn't what others give you. It's what no one can take away." By 4 a.m., he had created a secondary authentication protocol, one that could override his stolen device if Pierce attempted to use it. By 5 a.m., he had compiled a simplified presentation that even non-technical investors could grasp. By 6 a.m., he had rehearsed his demonstration until every word, every gesture was burned into his muscle memory. His phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Winters. "Institute credentials ready. Bring car to West Entrance, 8 a.m. Security has your name." The drive to the convention center through early morning fog felt surreal. The city was still waking up, unaware that today might change the trajectory of energy technology for decades to come. At the West Entrance, a security guard checked his ID against a clipboard. "Dr. Winters said you'd be coming. Follow the service road to Section E. Institute parking." No questions, no suspicion, just the simple respect of being expected. Dr. Winters was waiting. "Right on time," she said approvingly. "We have 3 hours before the panel. Let's use them wisely." They entered through a side entrance reserved for presenters and staff. The morning preparation was in full swing. Technicians checking audio systems, caterers arranging refreshments for VIP areas. "The main stage is through here," Dr. Winters said. "Each panelist has 15 minutes for presentation, followed by questions. Pierce speaks first as the keynote, then the order is alphabetical by company." "So I'm third," Dominic calculated. "After Biocore Energy." Dr. Winters nodded. "Pierce will use his keynote to set the narrative. He'll likely try to establish parameters for what constitutes credible innovation that conveniently exclude your work." They reached the main stage, a vast space with seating for over 1,000 attendees. Technicians were arranging the panel table, placing name cards for each presenter. Dominic spotted his name, printed in the same font as the industry giants who would share the stage. A convention coordinator approached, clipboard in hand. "Dr. Winters, Mr. Carter, we need to check your presentation materials and any demonstration requirements." Dr. Winters handled the conversation smoothly, explaining that Carter Innovations would require vehicle access for demonstration purposes. The coordinator made notes, occasionally glancing at Dominic with barely concealed skepticism. "We don't typically allow vehicles on stage," she said. "The demonstration area at stage right has reinforced flooring specifically for heavy equipment," Dr. Winters countered. "I've seen vehicles displayed there at previous conventions." The coordinator hesitated. "I'll need to get approval." "Of course," Dr. Winters smiled thinly. "I'm sure you wouldn't want to explain to the committee why Pierce Energetics was allowed their demonstration equipment last year, but Carter Innovations is being denied equal treatment." As they worked through the technical setup, Dominic felt the hair on the back of his neck rise. He turned to find Alexander Pierce standing at the edge of the stage, watching them with cold calculation. "Dr. Winters," Pierce acknowledged with forced cordiality, "this is an unexpected development." "Alexander," she replied coolly, "I believe you've met Dominic Carter." Pierce's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Briefly, though I didn't realize he had such influential supporters." "Innovation speaks for itself," Dr. Winters said, "as today's panel will demonstrate." Pierce's gaze shifted to Dominic. "Indeed, though I was surprised to see Carter Innovations added so last minute. The vetting process is usually quite thorough." "My credentials were submitted 3 months ago," Dominic said calmly, "along with full technical documentation." "Yes, well, the committee has standards, safety protocols, verification requirements." Pierce straightened his already perfect tie. "We can't have just anyone making extraordinary claims without extraordinary proof." "I couldn't agree more," Dominic replied, meeting Pierce's gaze steadily. Something flickered in Pierce's expression, uncertainty perhaps, or concern. He hadn't expected this calm confidence. "Well," Pierce said finally, "I look forward to your presentation." He turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, I nearly forgot. Security found this yesterday." He reached into his pocket and produced Dominic's authentication device. "I believe it belongs to you." Dominic took the device, keeping his face carefully neutral despite the alarm bells ringing in his mind. The casing had been subtly altered, evidence of tampering. "Thank you," he said simply. After Pierce left, Dr. Winters leaned closer. "He's giving it back. Why?" Dominic examined the device more carefully. "Because he's already copied what he thinks is important, but he doesn't understand how it works." A small smile played at his lips. "This is actually perfect. Now we have both the original and my backup protocol." As the panel start time approached, Dominic received a text that sent ice through his veins. "Treatment denied again. Need 175K by Friday or discontinuing service. I'm so sorry. Nurse Jenkins." His grandmother's treatment. 3 days away. The final deadline. Simultaneously, an email notification appeared from his bank. Foreclosure proceedings initiated on property at 1450 Harbor Workshop. The timing couldn't be coincidence. Someone, Pierce most likely, had been digging into his finances, applying pressure at the most vulnerable points. Dr. Winters noticed his expression. "What is it?" Dominic showed her the messages. "They're closing all my escape routes." Her face hardened. "Then we make sure you don't need to escape. You break through." The convention lights dimmed, signaling 10 minutes until the panel began. Backstage, Dominic could hear the growing murmur of the audience. Hundreds of the most influential people in the energy sector gathered to witness either his triumph or his destruction. He checked his phone one last time and saw a new message from his grandmother. "Whatever happens today, you've already won by staying true to yourself. Now show them what a Carter can do." The spotlights felt like interrogation lamps as Dominic took his seat at the panel table. The vast auditorium hummed with the whispers of 1,000 industry leaders, all wondering who this last-minute addition was and why he warranted a place among titans. Pierce sat at the center position, the keynote speaker's privilege. His custom-tailored suit and practiced smile projected absolute confidence. "We begin with our keynote address," the moderator announced. Alexander Pierce, CEO of Pierce Energetics, on institutional innovation, why the future belongs to established research frameworks. Pierce approached the podium to enthusiastic applause. His presentation was calculated, slides appearing with perfect timing as he outlined the responsible path to energy innovation. True breakthroughs, Pierce emphasized, require the infrastructure that only established companies can provide. The days of the garage inventor changing the world are romantic but outdated. He displayed a slide showing Pierce Energetics' latest battery technology. Our newest energy storage solution represents a 15% improvement over industry standards. This is what real progress looks like, measured, verified, and commercially viable. From the corner of his eye, Dominic could see Dr. Winters in the front row, her expression neutral but her eyes sharp. Next to her sat Amara Williams, an executive from Horizon Ventures whom Dominic recognized from industry publications. Williams was known for backing unconventional innovators. Pierce concluded with what sounded like a warning. We must be wary of extravagant claims that bypass proper verification channels. In our eagerness for revolutionary solutions, we mustn't abandon scientific rigor. The message was clear. Dominic's presence was the very danger Pierce was cautioning against. After the BioCore CEO presented, the moderator called Dominic's name. The soft hum of his prototype vehicle's system activating filled the momentary silence as a technician guided it into the demonstration area. The distinctive design immediately drew attention, sleek, unconventional, visibly different from anything in production. Dominic approached the podium, the weight of everything at stake settling into a strange, focused calm. "Good morning," he began, his voice steady. "My name is Dominic Carter, founder of Carter Innovations. I'm here today because energy storage isn't just about incremental improvements. It's about transformational change." He gestured to his vehicle. "What you're looking at isn't just a car. It's a fundamentally new approach to how we store and use energy." The audience's attention sharpened. Even those who had been checking emails looked up. "We've been told that 15% improvements represent meaningful progress," Dominic continued, the subtle reference to Pierce's claim not lost on the audience. "I'm here to demonstrate a 300% improvement, with commercial applications ready for implementation today." A murmur rippled through the crowd. On stage, Pierce shifted in his chair, his expression carefully neutral. Dominic moved away from the podium toward his vehicle. "Rather than tell you about theoretical potential, I'll show you actual results." He activated the vehicle's holographic display system with a gesture only the creator would know. A three-dimensional blueprint materialized in the air, rotating to show the internal components with Dominic's name embedded in the design. The soft hum of advanced technology silenced the whispers instantly. The polymer-based conductivity matrix at the heart of this system solves three fundamental problems in energy storage, Dominic explained, highlighting components. First, energy density. Our system stores 3 times more energy per cubic centimeter than the best current technology. The hologram shifted to show comparative metrics, data flowing in real time from the vehicle's systems. Second, charging speed, full capacity in under 3 minutes using standard equipment, not specialized charging stations. In the front row, Amara Williams leaned forward, her interest visible even from the stage. And third, sustainability. Our components are fully recyclable and contain no rare earth elements, making mass production both environmentally and economically viable. Pierce raised his hand, interrupting. "If I may, these claims are precisely what I cautioned against in my keynote. Without peer-reviewed verification, these numbers are merely—" "An excellent point," Dominic interjected smoothly. "Which is why I've brought the verification with me." He held up the authentication device Pierce had returned earlier. "This contains the complete development history, test results, and patent documentation. But more importantly," Dominic connected it to the convention's main system. "It contains a direct challenge." The holographic display expanded, now visible to the entire auditorium. "My authentication system is designed to verify the true creator of this technology. It poses 3 technical questions that only the actual inventor could answer correctly." Dominic turned to face Pierce directly. "Mr. Pierce, your company has claimed expertise in polymer-based energy storage. These questions address the fundamental principles behind my innovation, principles any genuine expert in the field would understand." The auditorium went completely still. Even the air conditioning seemed to hold its breath. Pierce's smile hardened. "This is highly irregular. The panel format doesn't include cross-examination." "It's not cross-examination," Dominic replied. It's verification, exactly what you called for in your keynote. Question 1, Dominic continued. In a polymer-based conductivity matrix, what effect does molecular chirality have on electron flow across temperature gradients? The question appeared on the holographic display. Industry experts would recognize this as fundamental for anyone working in the field. Pierce hesitated. The right-handed configuration naturally enhances conductivity. A red indicator flashed. Incorrect. Question 2, Dominic continued. When scaling a prototype matrix to commercial applications, which factor presents the greatest engineering challenge? Pierce's answer came more quickly but with less certainty. Heat dissipation across connection points. Another red indicator. Wrong again. Investors began typing furiously on their devices. Journalists in the press section leaned forward. Final question, Dominic said. What specific catalyst enables the self-repairing property in the matrix when microfractures occur? Pierce's face had lost its practiced confidence. Sweat beaded on his forehead. This is absurd. These questions are deliberately obscure. They're the foundational principles of the technology you claimed expertise in, Dominic replied. The same technology your security team attempted to access from my vehicle yesterday. A gasp rippled through the audience. Pierce's face flushed red. That's an outrageous accusation. Is it? Dominic connected his secondary authentication protocol. My system records all access attempts. Yesterday at 3:42 p.m., while I was being escorted from the premises, someone attempted to breach my protocols using Pierce Energetics network credentials. The evidence appeared on the display. Login attempts, IP addresses, timestamps, irrefutable digital fingerprints. Furthermore, Dominic continued, the device you returned to me shows clear signs of tampering. Fortunately, the actual data is secured by biometric encryption that only responds to the true creator. Absolute silence fell over the crowd. Dominic turned back to his vehicle. Now, let me demonstrate what my innovation actually does. He activated the central system, and the vehicle hummed to life. Energy metrics appeared, showing capacity, charging rate, and efficiency, all far beyond what Pierce had claimed as cutting edge. 300% improvement isn't incremental, it's transformational. Dominic's voice carried clearly. This isn't about competing with existing technologies. It's about making them obsolete. He conducted a live charging demonstration, the system reaching full capacity in under 3 minutes. The technical achievement was undeniable, even to skeptics. Energy storage has been the critical bottleneck in our transition to sustainable power, Dominic explained. This technology removes that bottleneck entirely. Industry publications were already posting updates. The hashtag #CarterInnovation began trending on social media. Dominic concluded by addressing the audience directly. Innovation doesn't belong exclusively to institutions. Sometimes transformation comes from perspectives that established systems overlook or actively exclude. His allotted 15 minutes had expired, but no one moved to stop him. I created this technology in a workshop scheduled for foreclosure in 27 days. I developed it while being consistently told that people like me don't belong in this industry. I perfected it to help my grandmother access medical treatment that costs more than I've ever had in my bank account. Dominic's voice remained steady, but the emotion behind his words was palpable. Innovation isn't about institutional pedigree. It's about solving real problems for real people. As Dominic returned to his seat, the silence held for 3 heartbeats before the auditorium erupted in applause. Not the polite acknowledgement given to previous speakers, but a genuine, thunderous response that seemed to shake the very stage. Pierce remained frozen in his chair, his face a mask of fury and dawning realization that his reputation was unraveling in real time before the entire industry. When the moderator finally restored order and opened the floor for questions, every hand in the audience shot up. The first recognized was Amara Williams from Horizon Ventures. Mr. Carter, she said, Horizon Ventures would like to discuss immediate funding options. Would you be available directly after this panel? Before Dominic could respond, 3 more investors made similar requests. The tide had turned so completely that even Pierce didn't attempt to regain control of the narrative. The hours following Dominic's presentation passed in a blur of handshakes and hastily arranged meetings. The convention center's exclusive VIP lounge, a space Dominic had been barred from just yesterday, now opened its doors as investors and industry leaders clamored for his attention. Notification sounds from dozens of phones created a constant symphony as clips of Pierce's humiliation and Dominic's triumph spread across social media. Dominic Carter was trending nationally, alongside #Energy Revolution and #Pierce Fraud. Your authentication system recorded everything, Amara Williams said, scrolling through the data. Pierce's team made 3 separate attempts to access your technology. That's not just corporate espionage, it's potentially criminal. I'm not interested in a legal battle, Dominic replied. I want to build something, not tear someone else down. Williams studied him with newfound respect. That's precisely why Horizon Ventures is prepared to offer full Series A funding at a $250 million valuation, with you retaining controlling interest and position as CEO. The figure momentarily robbed Dominic of speech. 2 days ago, he'd been counting the hours until bankruptcy. We move quickly when we see transformational technology, Williams continued. We can sign today and transfer initial funds within 48 hours. There's one condition, Dominic said. The Horizon Foundation's medical program. I want my grandmother enrolled immediately. Williams smiled. Already done. The Foundation's director called the hospital an hour ago. Your grandmother's treatment begins tomorrow, fully covered. Dr. Winters navigated through the throng of well-wishers. You've caused quite the paradigm shift, she said. The committee has received 17 complaints from Pierce, all denied. How bad is it for him? Dominic asked. 4 board members have called for an emergency meeting. 2 major investors have publicly distanced themselves. The stock is down 18% and falling. Dr. Winters showed no sympathy. He made his choices. A commotion near the lounge entrance drew their attention. Alexander Pierce stood arguing with security, demanding access to the VIP area his badge had always granted him without question. Sir, we need to verify your credentials, the security guard explained with barely concealed satisfaction. Pierce's face flushed with humiliation as he was held at the perimeter of the very inner circle he'd fought to control. Dominic stood and approached the entrance. Let him in, he told the security guard. Pierce straightened his jacket as he entered. The crowd parted for the confrontation everyone had been anticipating. Come to gloat? Pierce asked, his voice tightly controlled. No, Dominic replied simply. That was never the point. Pierce's laugh was bitter. You destroyed my reputation in front of the entire industry. What exactly was the point if not that? The point was the technology, the innovation, the possibility of change. Dominic maintained steady eye contact. The same things it should have been for you. For a moment, something like genuine regret flickered across Pierce's face. Then it hardened into calculation. I'd like to propose a partnership, Pierce said loudly. Pierce Energetics has the manufacturing infrastructure your innovation needs. Together we could... No, Dominic interrupted gently. I think we have fundamentally different approaches to innovation, Mr. Pierce. Don't be a fool, Pierce hissed. You may have won today, but you have no idea how this industry really works. The infrastructure, the supply chains, the political connections, you'll hit walls you don't even know exist. Then I'll build new paths, Dominic replied. But I won't compromise on how this technology enters the world. You'll regret this decision. I don't think I will. Dominic extended his hand. Good luck with your next 15% improvement. Pierce stared at the offered hand, then turned and walked away. The crowd parted again, this time with palpable disdain rather than deference. The king had been dethroned in full public view. 6 months later, Dominic stood in the expanded Carter Innovations headquarters, a renovated industrial complex in the same Oakland neighborhood as his original workshop. The company had grown from 1 to 68 employees, with manufacturing partnerships across 3 continents. The main development floor hummed with activity, engineers fine-tuning applications of the core technology for everything from electric vehicles to home energy systems. Dominic had insisted on an open layout where teams could collaborate freely, with glass-walled laboratories where visitors could see innovation happening in real time. In one corner, a dozen young engineers from underrepresented backgrounds worked on projects under a program Dominic had created, full scholarships and guaranteed internships for promising students from communities typically excluded from the tech pipeline. "The delegation from Japan has arrived," his assistant announced. "They're interested in the grid storage applications." "I'll be right there," Dominic replied, turning back to the component he'd been tinkering with. A new configuration that might improve efficiency another 12%. His hands were still stained with conductive material, his sleeves rolled up despite the high-level meeting ahead. Some habits wouldn't change, regardless of the company's valuation, now approaching $2 billion. Pierce Energetics had undergone a board restructuring after Alexander Pierce was forced to resign amid investigations into corporate espionage. The company survived but was no longer mentioned among industry leaders. Dominic's grandmother had responded well to treatment. Last weekend, she had visited the headquarters, introducing herself to every employee as the reason this one learned to stand his ground. On his way to meet the Japanese delegation, Dominic passed the company's mission statement engraved in the lobby. "Innovation belongs to those who solve real problems for real people." Beneath it hung a small, framed photograph of his grandparents standing in front of their Detroit auto shop, taken in 1962, a reminder of where he came from and why it mattered. In the reception area, Dominic spotted a young black woman clutching a prototype, nervously reviewing notes before her pitch meeting. He paused, remembering all too clearly the weight of those moments, standing outside doors that seemed designed to remain closed. "Mr. Carter? The delegation is waiting," his assistant reminded. "One moment," Dominic said, approaching the young inventor. "Ms. Jackson, I'm Dominic Carter." He extended his hand, still stained with the materials of his latest project. "Tell me about your innovation while we walk to the conference room." Her eyes widened in surprise, then determination as she gathered her prototype and fell into step beside him. "It's a medical monitoring system that works without continuous internet connectivity," she began, her voice growing stronger with each word. "For communities with limited infrastructure." Dominic listened intently, recognizing in her the same fire that had kept him going through years of rejection. The revolution hadn't ended with his success. It had only just begun. Some walls weren't meant to be accepted. They were meant to be rebuilt into bridges. If this journey of struggle, innovation, and triumph resonated with you, subscribe to the Beat Stories channel now for more inspirational narratives that shine a light on underrepresented voices and stories of justice served. Hit that like button if you believe in breaking down barriers and rebuilding them into bridges. Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that dignity isn't what others give you. It's what no one can take away. Join our growing community of storytellers and story lovers at Beat Stories, where we turn real-life moments of injustice into powerful tales of vindication.
Behind every headline is a human story. At Beat Stories, we go deeper, where emotion meets evidence and drama reveals the system. If this story made you pause, reflect, or feel something, don't forget to subscribe. There's more to come.